Good morning, and welcome to the DFS YouTube channel. I'm Razzle11, and you can find me on X at Razzle11Grinds. Going to take a look at the pitching for today, the 4th of May. It is Sunday. We do have an 11-game main slate ahead of us on DraftKings. I will be focusing on DraftKings as that is where a majority of my action is. If you do play on FanDuel, I will cut my pool into a half, as you do not have to be as creative. Pricing isn't quite as tight. They kind of allow you to get the stacks you want with an upper tier-ish pitcher. This is a first look at the pitching on the slate. We try to go more in depth as the day goes on. Obviously, I know the slate starts in about 3 hours. Fun Sunday morning. But we do have a couple places with some potential weather. So some worries in Pittsburgh, where maybe we're considering Andrew Heaney. Don't really love it, but he might be in play. In Philadelphia, Ranger Suarez's return. I do like left-handed pitching against Arizona. Eduardo Rodriguez, a left-handed pitcher, might have a decent matchup against the Phillies' left-handed bats, but still some weather issues. And then in Chicago, Lance McCullers making his return after multiple years away due to injury. Cool in Chicago, but rain, wind. It's the windiest spot as well. But with that, we're here to look at some pitching on this 11-game slate. My overall first look at pitching is there are going to be some decisions that have to be made. You're going to have to accept some risk with some of these guys and just play them in your builds. The Mets St. Louis, game 1 of the doubleheader, not going to be on Fetty. Tidwell is a strikeout arm in the minor leagues that's interesting. He allows a lot of base runners, which is a big worry, obviously. He is making his major league debut, so his control might just be an issue. His K-prop's just 4.5 with juice on the under. But he and the Mets are minus 125 favorites. And I know St. Louis doesn't strike out a whole lot, but I think I'm intrigued enough by Tidwell in the spot that he might be a last man in flyer type for, 10 to 12% in my builds. I haven't tried to look at any ownership projections yet. So I'm hoping that he's not going to be some chalkier guy. He shouldn't be, based on the matchup. Andrew Heaney is a guy that's all over the place in performances. Strikeouts can be there. Dominated a dangerous Yankee squad, dominated the Angels. But then, walks and then strikeouts not there. Some home runs randomly. San Diego, with Tatis back in our eyes, don't strike out quite as much. But still, that bottom half of that lineup really is not all that great, especially without Jackson Merrill to help lengthen the lineup out. I think Heaney is viable, but we do have rain, like I mentioned. Pittsburgh is minus 122 favorites. His K-prop's just 3.5 with juice on the over, which is tied with Ranger Suarez for the second to last or lowest K-prop on the slate, in front of Evans from Seattle, who we'll get to a little bit later. But I kind of think that Heaney's in play, but I wouldn't blame you for removing him right away. I think it's a pretty low chance of him having a nut-type performance, but we're here to try to figure out, who we need to consider and who we can get rid of immediately. Taj Bradley and Will Warren. Taj's worst start came against these Yankees. His last 3 starts have not been great. Strikeouts have been down, walks are up. I think we get that kind of lull late April after, these guys come into spring training, throw 12, 14, 15, 16 innings in spring training, and then all of a sudden they're just thrust out there every 5 days, throwing 5 to 7 innings. You kind of fight through some fatigue and then just some mechanical things. I do think he's in play because he does have upside. His K-prop's at 5.5 with juice on the under. one of I don't know, I didn't count them up, maybe 7 or 8 guys with K props at 5.5 or better. So the K numbers could be there. Obviously, there's volatility with the Yankees, but there is upside. Now, I think I might rather play Heaney in this game over Taj Bradley, but I mean, both spots are pretty dangerous. Will Warren, ton of hype in the spring, has not really translated a ton to the season. He shows flashes. This Baltimore game, he showed some dominant flashes, then all of a sudden he just lose control, make one mistake. Hung a slider to Ryan O'Hearn. I was watching this as it happened. He's just one of those guys that has all kinds of talent, but just can't really put it together just yet. The Yankees are minus 185 favorites. His K-prop's 4.5 with juice on the over. But the game total is sitting at 9. I think I'd rather play Will Warren than Taj Bradley, just because I think the Tampa Bay offense has cooled off enough that there's potential for him. But it's still a scary roster at this point. Kyle Gibson just gave up a ton of home runs to the Yankees. Obviously, Kansas City's not the Yankees. He could certainly step in and be completely fine, but there really isn't any K upside in this matchup, so I'm going to pass on Kyle Gibson. I will, however, be using Mike Lorenzen. 1 earned run allowed in 3 out of his last 5 starts. Isn't a huge K guy, which is all right, but one of the biggest reasons that he is in play for me is not the props or anything from this game, because this game has a total of 9.5, and he's actually an underdog. The reason is that he's been so elite versus left-handed bats over much of his career that I think it's a very sneaky spot, because we would expect Baltimore to be pretty left-hand heavy in their lineup. And if that's the case, then I do like the chances of Lorenzen putting up a strong performance at this point. There is volatility to it, because I do expect Baltimore's offense to wake up at some point, but I think this is a spot where we want to go to Lorenzen. Top pitcher on the slate in this game, the Boston-Minnesota Twins game, Garrett Crochet. He's plus 110 to earn the W, which is the best odds on the slate. K-prop is 6.5, basically a pick'em, which is the top K-prop on the slate. I had to double check my notes here. Obviously hasn't been completely dominant the entire season so far, but when it comes together, he's ridiculously dominant. This Twins lineup, not the scariest of lineups by any means. I am just going to be on Garrett Crochet. I mean, everybody's going to be. The Red Sox are minus 205 favorites in this game. Paddock has been pretty steady. And maybe I should consider him, but I'm just not. I just think Boston gets to him. I know Boston can strike out a bunch. Paddock's not really a big K guy. He has 2 strikeouts in 3 out of his 6 starts. I just think it's a spot for the Boston bats to wake up. But Paddock has been really steady. Still can allow a bunch of base runners, but found a way to limit runs scored. Obviously, this start was against the White Sox. Tough to rely on that number. Cleveland, not the most dangerous of offenses right now. So, somebody could talk me into Paddock, but I just don't want to get there, to be honest. Cleveland, Toronto, Tanner Bibee, Bibee and Francis. 2 pitchers that I use far more than I should. Francis plus 180 to earn the W. Bibee plus 190. Both have K-props of 4.5 with juice on the under. Game total of 8, which is the second lowest total on the slate. That's what caught me off guard, and that's what put these guys back onto my radar. Initially, I was just going to skip over them and think that they weren't giving me much, but that low game total is somewhat interesting. Toronto minus 112 favorites. Bibee has looked better the last 2 starts after a couple starts that were rough. Big worry here is It is on the road, and his last 2 road starts have been absolutely atrocious. A lot of home runs hit. Not a huge K guy, as you can see. And it's not a great matchup for strikeouts. But I think we can get clean innings, which is important as well. This last game against the Twins, if you'd gotten the win, approached 25 fantasy points, that's the kind of performance we're looking for, especially on an 11-game slate. So I think Bibee is in play. I don't normally pick on Toronto. Bibee and Francis, 5 home runs last start out. He's all over the place too. Home runs, strikeouts have come down, allowing a lot of base runners. I think I'm less likely to play Francis, even though he's a slight favorite. And he's slightly favorited over Bibee to earn the W. With that said, I'm a sucker for Bibee and Francis because he shows some upside at times. I don't think he's going to, the more I think about it, I just don't think he's going to make the pool, but he is an option on this particular slate. The Athletics and Marlins, JP Sears, absolutely dominated Texas. Got even better from the start prior against Texas. 3 earned or less in every start. His strikeouts are all over the place. That's a worry, but I think left-handed pitching against Miami is probably a strong play. Given that it neutralizes like Kyle Stowers, who's been on fire from the left side. Matt Mervis, I think he's kind of struggling right now, but has a bunch of home runs already this season. He's from the left side. I think Otto Lopez is a better hitter from the left side. Xavier Edwards, I believe, struggles a little bit more against left-handed pitching. I'd have to look at the numbers again to make sure, but I think Sears obviously makes a ton of sense. Minus 125 road favorite. His K-prop's just 4.5 with juice on the under. He does have the second best odds to earn the W at plus 130. He's ahead of a guy like DeGrom, just behind Crochet. To be honest, there isn't a lot of great win odds on this slate, at least the ones that were posted initially. Edward Cabrera, one of the guys that's like kryptonite to me because I constantly want to play him because he shows a big arm, but his starts here just do not show that same thing. He does have the K upside. He's a fly ball guy, which not great against the Athletics and their power. But I do think there are strikeouts, so I am somewhat intrigued. His K-prop's at 5.5. Juice is on the under, but still a strong K-prop on this particular slate. Plus 250 to earn the W, not great. So he's somebody that might make it in, but that's just because I'm a sucker for his arm talent. Arizona, Philadelphia, talked about some rain. Suarez making his debut. I do like left-handed pitching against Arizona, so I am very interested in Ranger Suarez as long as we get some clearing with the weather. Nearly 80 pitches in his last rehab start. I think he's good to go. So he's somebody I'm going to utilize for sure. K-prop's 3.5 with juice on the over, though. I should look up what his outs prop might be. Eduardo Rodriguez, super volatile. Just gave up 3 home runs to the Mets. But he can be super dominant. Struck out 9 and 5 and a third. Struck out 12 and 5. I think there's upside for Eduardo Rodriguez, so he's going to make my pool. His K-prop's at 5.5 with juice on the under. Running low on time here. Definitely going to play pitchers in this game. Peralta's got the second best K-prop at 6.5. I think I'm going to prefer Imanaga just because the Brewers lineup has been struggling. McCullers making his return after multiple years away. I think he's in play, but I need to dig into more potential, what his innings and number pitches will be. DeGrom is going to be in play for me. Struggled against Seattle the one time he faced them. Seattle's super dangerous, so it's not a lock DeGrom in type play. Evans might make it in because Texas has been struggling so much. But there we have it. I think a lot of people are going to look at DeGrom, but I would guess I might end up underweight. There's the first look at our pitching options. If you enjoy it, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, turn the notification bell on to get the alert anytime we drop videos. If you want to join us, get access to our coaches, tools, sheets, Discord, etc. I will put links in the description below. You can use promo code RAZ, that's R-A-Z, for 10% off monthly. And as always, best of luck, everybody.